Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So now that we've seen the model that everything is indeed a construct of the five elements, and the question then comes is, are these forms in any way an obstruction to enjoying the vision of oneness? No. But before they did, because I didn't have any knowledge to understand, how do I explain away the differences? So now, having the knowledge come, we know that these forms are okay, but they do not contradict our, the understanding of the vision. Then the question comes is, if I understand that all that is here is Ishvara, does that in any way cause perception to change? The answer is no, but there is a reason why nothing changes. And I use the slightly example when the wave cognitively understands that there are two more realities which it's missing out on, which is the ocean and the water. Does the wave expand? No. However, this is a wave example, so we have to apply this to the real world. We said Maya Upadhi. Upadhi is actually another name for it, is superimposition. Now the question is, what kind of a superimposition? And there are two kinds of superimpositions that we have to understand. And the reason I'm going to do this inquiry is to show us that nothing changes when you understand that all that is here is one without a second. That's where we can drop this notion that, I'm supposed to feel different, or I'm supposed to see different things, or supposed to be tuned into different realities, and things are supposed to be special. There are two kinds of superimpositions. There is nirupadika adhyasa, sopadika adhyasa. So adhyasa is superimposition. Now, nirupadika adhyasa is, for example, when someone tells you some wrong information about another person. This is called gossip. And you listen, right? And you kind of buy into their idea, and they say this person wants to use you, and they are, they're not a very friendly person. And this is all untrue. These are all untrue facts. And while they're saying that, what's happening in your mind? From the moment where you will value neutral towards that person, and now having been told, what is developing in your mind?
Negative.
Yeah, thoughts that are not keeping with the actual person, because the information that you're receiving is incorrect. Therefore, what's happening is they are developing, or you're having a superimposition developed relative to one single mind. Therefore, one person will have in their head, right, a certain thought, right, about something. And what happens is when you finally get the right information about this person and you realize it's all wrong, so they're not like this, they're not like that, so we'll cross this out, then what happened is you've canceled out the notion that was incorrect. And not only have you canceled that notion, but also your experience towards the other person has completely changed. If you can relate when you say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, oh, I thought you were late because you don't like me or something, right? And then and you're saying, no, I was late because I had to help someone who fell downstairs. And this person started going on a tangent about you. And so the moment you explain your situation, they have their entire notion about you as someone that is irresponsible destroyed. But what follows is an experience totally changes. So this example can be equated to the snake and rope, which is on the floor. So the snake, right, the rope is as it is. It's always true. But then through some storylines and so on, you've developed that thing into what it's not. And therefore, you operate from a notion, your own individual reality, which is causing you not to have the right relationship with that rope because you're having a relationship with the snake. No, what are you talking about? There's a rope there. No, there's a snake. So you're totally convinced. You blow that snake out by recognizing the rope. Now, the relationship you have with the snake is a fearful one that you are scared. A rope in no way reflects fear. It's just a useful utility that you have. Therefore, nirupadika means notion is crossed out, experience is totally different. How to remember this? Easy, because n means never again the same. And the second one is sopadika. This is when there is a notion about something in this world. You've not been told about how the world operates, for example. And like the sun, right? It rises. Or does it rise, right? So the sun rises, and one day you get told that the sun doesn't rise. It's actually the globe that spins. And so what happens is you say, oh, okay. So the sun no longer rises. So I've canceled out my individual notion that the sun rises. What happens tomorrow? You still see the sun rising because there are two different orders of reality. This is why this one, when you cancel the notion out, your experience is completely different. Here, when you cancel the notion out, your experience is exactly the same. So we have an example of this. There's a son and a father who are walking in a desert, and they see the oasis in the distance. And the son sees, right, the oasis. I think it's called the oasis, right? The mirage, whatever. And it's like water and so on. So the son, not knowing any better, runs over to get some water. Obviously, with great exhaustion, it collapses and there's nothing there. But the father remains put because he knows that it's just a phenomena of light reflecting on the sand. And the father still sees that, doesn't he? Just like the son. So for the father, the notion is crossed out, but the experience is exactly the same as for the son. For the son, it's real. For the father, it's unreal, but it still gives father exactly the same perception as it does for the son. Therefore, in this case, this kind of atyasa, that oasis, is sopadika, whereby the notion is crossed off, but experience remains the same. How to remember? S for same. Like that. S means experience is the same. Now, the thing is, most believe that moksha is, which one do you think? Nirupadika atyasa. So they think, for example, samadhi, I've heard, the interviews, obviously. Amazing what they project nowadays. They keep on saying this, how, for example, Ramana Maharishi was in some samadhi, and, he was, in a different world altogether. And this happens all the time. So this is because the person who's making that claim does not know about this. Now you're going to ask, how do you prove that? And the way to prove it is, on this side we have mithya, and mithya itself has two types of mithya. So we have vyavaharika mithya and pratibhasika. So they're both mithya, and we know what mithya means, right? Dependent. So if they're both dependent, that means they both depend on this. Okay, what is vyavaharika mithya? It's something that is empirically true. It's a publicly shared world. In other words, it's the kind of world that we all see and experience. We all experience right now the heat. We all experience the weather. It's a publicly, uniformly agreed upon world. And a lot of people believe that this world is absolutely real. This is where the error gets made. They think that this world is the final reality. However, this world also has a dependence upon, right, the Satyam. Now, there's another name. See, when you bring these terms in these Sanskrit terms, and the reason I'm bringing these Sanskrit terms is because this tradition does come from Sanskrit, and therefore we give it its due credit. Yeah. So when you bring these two terms, usually Vyavaharika, which is the empirical reality, and Pratibhasika, which is your personal reality, you have to bring one more word, and that is Paramartika. You heard of this? Paramartika? Para means highest. So Paramartika means consciousness. It's exactly the same. See, Vyavaharika has no reality without Paramartika. In one short sentence, Vyavaharika is, it is, therefore I see it. What do you mean by that? It is, therefore I see it. Or it is, a tree is, therefore I see it. When you correct a Vyavaharika notion, for example, the sun is Vyavaharika. I didn't create the sun. I didn't imagine the sun, did I? The sun is already there. It's what's called, right, Vyavaharika. And I correct that. So in reference to what am I making a correction? In reference to Vyavaharika, something that I didn't create. So when I didn't create Vyavaharika, right, I didn't create this, and I make a correction about it, then what kind of a atyasa is it? Okay, soparika. Because Vyavaharika is the sun, remember? Okay, this is the Vyavaharika world. If I learn that, the sun doesn't rise and set, then still my experience is exactly the same. Therefore, correcting a notion about the empirical world, what kind of an experience do we have? Exactly the same experience. Whereas when it comes to pratibhasika, so this is when you imagine your own ideas about someone. So this fella's notion, which was not keeping with reality, is called pratibhasika. So when you correct a that means your personal, that means it's yours and not someone else's. This person doesn't have this thought. Only this person has. That's what pratibhasika is. Subjective. When you correct the pratibhasika notion, then it is a nirupadika. Now, this world, it being Vyavaharika, what do we say about the truth of the world, the forms, which is nothing but 5 elements? They resolve into Maya Upadi. And Maya Upadi has no existence apart from Sat and Chit. So when you discover that, when you discover the reality of this world, Vyavaharika, does anything change? Right? Because the world is just made of 5 elements. So when I make a correction about the world, it's always a sopadika atyasa. In other words, the false notion got negated. What kind of a false notion? That this world has absolute reality. That got negated. However, despite it being negated, the perception, the experience is exactly the same. Whereas, if it's my private notion about something or someone, then if I remove that, it is nirupadika. First step in Vedanta. Distinguish between Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. The reason is because if you are, for example, having a thought, I am no good, is that thought Vyavaharika or is that Pratibhasika? So if you're operating from I'm no good, you're not even analyzing Vyavaharika. What Vedanta wants to show you is in order to arrive to the final reality, you first have to get rid of these personal notions like a snake, because they're so powerful that if I'm stuck with a snake, I'm not even going to start analyzing the rope. And you need the rope, you need to see the rope so that you can begin your inquiry and start saying, what is the reality of the rope, right? Molecules, like this, right? What is the reality of molecules? Concepts. Reality of concepts, drik. So if I'm still at the little snake, okay, if I'm still there, then this entire section doesn't even get addressed, because your own pratibhasika is so powerful and so personal and so nice and warm to hold that the inquiry is just not going to start. You relate to this? This is why first step in Vedanta, why we always have those values. This is why you learn the values, chapter 13. They're meant to eliminate the snake, so that I can actually start asking the question, okay, then what is the nature of the rope? So it's a sequential, step-by-step process. And that is why Vedanta works, because we first bring you down to reality. It's called being grounded. And then you have these partial schools, pseudo-spiritual schools. You go inside this class, first thing, let's talk about not even the rope. Let's talk straight towards Drig. And yet, where am I operating? The one who sits down at the snake. And therefore, that person keeps on coming back to class, back to class, back to class. And every time they do, they superimpose the snake onto, right, the final reality. Therefore, the final reality becomes one more thing inside my bubble. And therefore, then I think when I blow up my bubble, right, what's going to happen? Never again will things be the same. This is why we have this confusion what moksha is. But moksha is nothing but keeping with the reality, understanding that all that is here is one, manifesting as the many. And to do that, I need to first come to the snake, remove the snake, acknowledge the snake. That's even before the snake. Acknowledge the snake. Work on the snake. And then I can see the rope. Begin your inquiry into the rope. This is the order of how we understand the reality. So what this means is you need the world to arrive to the reality. The person can't go from a snake onto the reality, because as long as it's here, there's a block. Distinguish Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika. What is my stuff? What is my additions and subtractions? And what is the reality? Before one starts attacking the whole Brahman pursuit. That's why Vedanta has so many and puts so much focus on readiness. Is one an adhikari? One time I saw a book review by my former teacher, James. Someone wrote a 1-star review on his book. It's a great book, by the way. And you know what they wrote? This book is just a bunch of virtues. You know, it's just telling you how to be in this world. This is not what, and all of the people he mentioned were those Neo-Vedantins. This is not what this G, that G, this G said. And all that my former teacher was saying is, before attending to Vedanta, clean up your snake. And this fella, coming from Neo-Vedanta, he gave a 1-star review because that's what the book was saying. Think about this. This is the difference between Advaita Vedanta and this nonsense. What's an example of moving from Pratibhasika to Vyavaharika? Suppose you say God is punishing me. Is that Vyavaharika or is that Pratibhasika? Pratibhasika. No, God is not punishing you. God is an impersonal order, unbiased, and whatever happens to you is a reflection of all of the actions that have taken place, whether I know about them or not. Or another one is people are evil. That's a very strong generalization, isn't it? Like, what is evil even? What exactly is the evil? Is their nose evil? Is their words evil? What exactly that is evil? No, people are not evil. Rather, people operate from their own pressures, from their own pressures, which are discarding the best interest of the environment. See what's happening here? I'm going from Pratibhasika into Vyavaharika. So it does require reflecting on one's own psyche. Where am I operating from? Otherwise, I tell you one notion, such as God is punishing me, Even if you have all of the knowledge in the world, that can become a burden. First step, reduce subjectivity to this world, and then analyze this world. Understand the content of this world is consciousness existence, called Paramartika. This is the steps in Vedanta. In all of the Upanishads, this is the model. Reduce subjectivities, come back to the world, and then begin your inquiry into the final reality through the world. Therefore, anything in the world can become an object worthy of inquiry, because everything is a form made of 5 elements. 5 elements we've now seen resolves into Maya. In other words, the intelligence is making those 5 elements what they are. So wherever there's a form, that's exactly where intelligence is. Where there's intelligence, that's exactly where. Now you can say consciousness is. Do not skip intelligence, otherwise you just went into Neo-Vedanta. That's the difference. Okay? Here intelligence is paramount. Otherwise the whole thing loses any kind of emotional impact. And as we will soon see, the difference between a wise person and a wise person who's not wise is one's operating from head, one's operating from head and heart. It is everywhere. For this person, it's just intellectual. So when we say it's a cognitive understanding, understand this, I don't mean it's an intellectual understanding. There is also, it changes the way you feel about yourself and the world. Now that takes time. That no one can force you. But when you do learn something, isn't it true it is sort of intellectual? Any topic, when you learn it, it is intellectual, isn't it? This is knowledge. This is knowledge. It's going to be intellectual. But then what transfers that intellectual knowledge into more of an emotional impact? What transfers that? How does that transfer happen? That's why the Vedas has meditation and devotion. And that's why the next topic, I believe, is meditation and devotion. You see the order? Just to have this knowledge in the head doesn't work. There needs to be meditation. Of course, the question is, what is meditation? How do I perform the meditation? And what kind of meditations are there? And what does meditation mean? These are all answered in the next verse. Here, verse 22 to 29, it wants to talk about 6 types of meditation. But actually, there's only 2. 2, they're internal meditations. There are 2 external meditations. So 2 internal means in reference to your closed eyes. So 2 closed eyes, 2 open eyes, so that's already 4. And there is spontaneity, that means nirvikalpa for open eyes, and there is nirvikalpa for closed eyes. Nirvikalpa just means it's on autopilot. You're meditating on autopilot. So 2 for closed eyes, 2 for open eyes, and then, right, autopilot. That means you're not meditating anymore. It's just in the background. It's a different definition than yoga, because in yoga, nirvikalpa is like a huge thing you have to work for years to attain. In Advaita Vedanta, the definition is totally different. And so it calls meditation samadhi. Meditation, samadhi, usually in chapter 6, they call it dhyanam. Here they call it samadhi. So samadhi just means a means of contemplation. That means a method by which you contemplate on this knowledge which we have learned thus far. First of all, what is the purpose of meditation? When we learn this knowledge, we still have our old orientations dominating our perception. And even if you walk out of class, the moment we see someone that doesn't quite match our view of how a person is supposed to be, there's a tendency to give it a label. And here we are saying it's just 5 elements. You see, so it kind of like goes right over your head. So the reason this happens is because you and I have been born in an environment which has taught us one way of looking at the world. And that way will dominate for a long time. The point is, you can intercept, you can break that pattern. It takes effort. And that's why meditation is there. Not only is meditation there to convert this into a living reality, it's also there to intercept those old patterns that we are so used to when we respond to situations in the world. And another example why we need meditation is right after the Vedanta ends, there's sometimes a tendency to try to now experience this reality. Because still, the notion of experience is so ingrained in the culture that with all of the logics we have just done, still, let me go out there and try some drugs just to kind of, get a taste of what this is all about. So therefore, Vedanta, as we keep saying, is praptasya prapti. It is about discovering your reality that's true now. To discover something means I need to remove my ignorance that's denying me from seeing it right now. In Vedanta, we have the term ashravanam. Ashravanam is what we've all been doing. We've just been listening. But there's also nididhyasanam, which is contemplation, right? So after you walk out by yourself, that's where you take over. No longer teacher takes over, you take over. It's on your own terms now. So it's just another name for nididhyasanam. Good because. And we have I love yoga, by the way. Yoga, yoga, Ashtanga yoga. And I've been doing it for many years. And it has an amazing ability to purify your mind and get you into a very sattvic, calm state. And, just help you understand this knowledge. When it really goes wrong is when you turn yoga into the ultimate end. It is just a means. It's a means to an end. So in some sects of yoga, there's a idea that in order to enjoy one's state of non-duality, that means one without a second, what I have to do is I have to get rid of my thoughts, because thoughts are the ones that produce the vision. So the idea is to remain thoughtless for as long as possible. We also have this idea to remain in silence, right? Sometimes we have these don't speak, because every word generates, the visions in between you and the world. So there's this notion in some sects of yoga that thoughts are like your enemies or something, right? They're like your things that will take you away from non-duality. Now, when it comes to Vedanta, it's totally different. We say, don't get rid of your thoughts. Number one, because you can't. Because your nature is to think. Rather, but align your thoughts with knowledge, keeping with the reality. Because you're going to have thoughts anyway. So if that is the case, I might as well just direct them towards that knowledge, which is a perfect reflection of what's going on, actuality right now. Which one sounds better to you?
The latter one.
Huh?
The latter one.
Second one. Before I found Vedanta, I was into yoga. And it was a perfect means to this, because it made the mind amazingly pure to the point where the Vedanta was super easy. So yes, both. And that's why I do not put yoga down. I do very much acknowledge it. And when I say yoga, I'm specifically talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is called Ashtanga Yoga, which consists of yama, niyama, which is nothing but how to live in this world. You've learned about values with nima. It's similar, yama, niyama. And then you proceed on to asanam. Why do you do asanam? Because your body is the first and the most important thing when it comes to knowledge. If you want to study, but you can't sit for too long, then it's not going to work. So the body has to be flexible, has to be able to stay and with the knowledge and understand the realities, which takes some time. Now, after having some body, right, flexibility and having that ability to synchronize my mind with the body, because if you notice when you do a yoga pose, asana, and you're told to hold it for 1 minute, what does the mind think while the body is being held for 1 minute? get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. That means the body-mind connection has not been developed yet. Therefore, we need to build that connection because the mind wants to learn, but the body wants to go and eat food. The mind wants to understand, but the body wants to dance, which is nothing wrong with it, but when it's time to learn, it's time to learn. Then if we look at the human system, we have what's called pranayama. Pranayama just means the energy of your body. And it's, we have also in, qi, qi in the traditional Chinese medicine, for example. And this is things like, how energized you feel, how healthy you feel, and how, strong you feel in your core also. So this is why the fastest ways to kind of get your mind focused is through alternative nostril breathing. If you've ever tried this, this is very quickly to align your mind because your prana, your energy, has a direct connection or is the interface between your physical body and your mind. That's why when we change our breathing, which is a physical activity, we also affect our mind instantaneously. So it only takes 5 minutes to, if the mind is in sort of a chaotic, loud state, pranayama, alternative nostril breathing, instantly within 5 minutes, you will have a massive change mentally, which can prepare you to come to class clean. And then we have things like, pratyahara there, but I want to move on to dharana. Dharana is a state where you have struggled, you're beginning to struggle to hold your mind onto one spot. That's that beginning stage. When I say focus between the eyebrows, when you're trying to focus there, that's the dharana stage. You're trying to concentrate, but your mind's going everywhere. So it's that very active stage of bringing the mind back onto one point. When you have done that for a while, then naturally you move on to dhyanam. Now, dhyanam is exactly the same as dharana, except that it has more, it's easier. You've gone through the hard work. Now, less fighting with bringing my mind back to the one point, more opportunity to focus my mind and begin the inquiry, which we will see what that inquiry is. So therefore, it took struggle. It was a struggle to get to dhyanam. When we say meditation, we think just sit down and close your eyes. But look what the Ashtanga Yoga is saying. You're going to first struggle by going through asana, getting your body in a comfortable state, aligning your breath, making a breath calm and easy, and then you're going to go through, that pratyahara stage of kind of just bringing your thoughts inwards because they want to go outwards. So constantly I bring my senses inwards. That's also a struggle. And then I go into dharana. Dharana is when you actually bring that focus, that mental focus, and that is also a struggle. And then dhyanam, within 15 minutes or however long it takes, only then it becomes officially meditation. Might as well just call it a struggle before. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, meditation. You see, so this is the reality. Otherwise we, say, no, I can't meditate. And I say, how long have you meditated? 5 minutes? That was no meditation. That was just preparing the mind to come to meditation. So we're talking about meditation, and we compared the yoga view on meditation as if thoughts are taking you farther away from you, but thoughts don't take you farther away from you, because for every thought that you have, there's awareness of that thought. Therefore, and awareness is you. This we have established. Therefore, no matter what thoughts you have, you are always there by the mere virtue of being aware of that thought. Okay? So this is why Vedanta has no problems with thoughts. What are some examples of Vedantic meditation? For example, you can take any form in this world, and then you can start to inquire the nature of this form, such as this form, the truth of this form is intelligence, right? Without which the form cannot exist. And the truth of intelligence is Sat and Chit. So this is a very nice meditation, because when are you not confronted with forms? So every form becomes your object of worship. It just depends which one you want to worship. The form is there, the intelligence is there, and so is the final reality. Therefore, all three are true at once. We established this yesterday. Ishvara is there because it's manifesting this moment. the potential for that form to become something else is also there, which is Maya, and the form at every level of its existence exists. So does the intelligence exist, and so does the potential exist. Therefore, all realities are there at once. And how do you start? Just pick any object in the world. Another is to, for example, understand, it is a fair world. It's just like a statement. It is a fair world. And then you say, well, why? Because we often think the world is unfair, right? The world is a bad place. But it is a fair world. And then you say, why is the world fair? Like, what does it mean to say the world is fair? It means that it is a perfect cause and effect relationship. It's not like God made this world what it is now. Understand this. Ishvara is just that which facilitates the results of our actions. Okay? You put a jiva onto the world. You give the jiva free will. And that jiva may dig up cobalt in Congo, may start to make a rocket and go to space. It's not like Ishvara intended the man to go to space or to start to make houses and air conditioning and phones. You just put the jiva, which is forms, which is intelligence. You give this jiva free will, which is also the same intelligence, and you say, there. And the jiva starts to act according to their samskaras, in the light of their free will. Now, whatever comes out of that, that's the jiva's problem. The Ishvara just facilitates jiva's ongoing actions. How so? By supplying oxygen, by supplying, right, the laws, photosynthesis, by getting your high blood pressure, low blood pressure. All of these stimulus and stimuli are a response to the environment. Who's facilitating all this? Ishvara, in whom this individual is given free will, and this individual can do whatever he or she wants. And when he or she does whatever they want, Ishvara returns the results of their actions. So it's not like Ishvara is punishing you or rewarding you. You are punishing yourself and you are rewarding yourself. Ishvara is just obligated to do how the laws are. So therefore, Ishvara is unbiased, impersonal. For example, suppose someone wants to teach about this reality and they get sick. And it's like, whoa, geez, why is Ishvara making this person sick if they're teaching the highest knowledge? And then as a criminal or just a person who's doing something dodgy, they're so strong and so healthy. It's like, doesn't make sense. Ishvara should give the teacher or whatever, the health. Ishvara is not a personal entity who just sort of says, I like this person, I'm going to give them some respite. And this person I don't like. It just offers materials, it offers the laws, it offers the free will, it offers dharma, and says, there's your world. Now go and do as you wish to do. Whatever comes out of that, you are responsible. I'm just going to give you karma pala data. I'm going to give you the results of your actions. And you can't go outside my order because I'm Dharma Raja. I'm the king of Dharma, the one who sets up these laws. Therefore, Ishvara, on one hand, has nothing to do with it. On the other hand, has everything to do with it. Because Ishvara is that which facilitates and supplies the materials, the laws, the intelligence, the knowledge, the societies, the structure, the plants, the sun. It supplies all of that. How I use that, what my attitude is towards that, the results of those come back to me. Therefore, Ishvara is always helping me get exactly what you want. Based on your choices, based on your selections, what you think is worthwhile and not worthwhile. This idea that Ishvara is a being, this has to be let go. Ishvara is unbiased, impersonal. Unbiased, impersonal means no one has better or lower privileges in God's order.
In Sanskrit, they say Ishvara is akarta abhukta.
who is the doer? Who is the enjoyer? We know it's not consciousness, of course, because it's attributeless and it's all pervasive. How can that which is all pervasive do? Which is already everything, right? It's already everything. So why would it need to do if everything is itself? So then who's the real doer, and what does the doer mean? Doer just means thinker, walker, complainer, eater, thinker. It's just ordinary. You don't want to just stick with doer, right? Whatever is being done, the essence, okay? According to your choices, the essence is the doer. And as we already said, Hatmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, why do we do everything? For the sake of self, because it pleases me to be a karta, because it's going to bring me, that enjoyment of my fullness. For a moment, I'm going to get in touch with Ananda, definition number 2. And therefore, it's so pleasing that I want to have one more try. Who goes to a roller coaster once? Probably everyone, right? Okay, different question, right? Who, just kisses their partner once and that's it. For the rest of their life, they never get kissed again, right? Or hug, right? You do it again and again and again because it pleases you to do it again and again and again. That's why. Otherwise, the door is the ahamkara, which is totally okay. And it's the enjoyer, which is totally okay. That's the order. That's the vyavaharika order. It's made to do. It's made to enjoy. What do you want to do to suffer? No, you only do to enjoy, which is okay. I accept it. Amongst that, I understand I'm the illuminator of the whole thing. That much I can live with peace. Therefore, we don't mix things up. I'm not a doer, I'm not an enjoyer. What difference does it make? It's just put things in the right place. I sense is the doer and enjoyer. Let it go. Now move on with your duties. Practical, not philosophical. Okay, so have we understood what it means when we say Ishvara is impersonal, unbiased? Yeah, it is the laws and orders in whom creations are interacting, engaging together, and receiving consequences based on their own free will, based on the choices that they choose, and therefore that's what they return, that's what comes back to them. And Ishvara is that one who returns consequences from your actions, consequences from your actions, consequences from your actions. It never mixes things up. Therefore, Ishvara is the one that smacks you, but also rewards you, depending on how much aligned you are with the orders. Therefore, it is in it for whom you to be aligned with Ishvara's orders. Because as we said, Ishvara is the creator. And the creator has established Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means those laws which have never changed, in whom participants, by their living, survive and thrive and prosper and learn and ultimately attain moksha. Why would I not align myself to that order when that order is made so that I can thrive, survive, prosper, and attain moksha? Therefore, it makes sense to discover these laws and align to them and live by them. And these laws, as some of us have learned in chapter 13, those 20 values. Bhagavad Gita has 2 sections, Yoga Shastra and Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is self-knowledge, like Brahman Vidya, Brahman knowledge. And Yoga Shastra means just the ways of conduct, how to live your life in a successful, prosperous way, in everyday, down-to-earth challenges with children, with family, with spouse, with wife, with husband, and so on. So the whole Yoga Shastra of the Bhagavad Gita is really for one purpose, and that is to reduce your pratibhasika. That's it. Just reduce your pratibhasika so that you can arrive to Vyavaharika, and then Brahma Vidya can take you from Vyavaharika to Paramarthika, to the final reality. And we also have many models in the Gita. In fact, the Gita is nothing but models of how to live, at least the Yoga Shastra part. And the Brahma Vidya is also a model of reality. For example, in chapter 6, we have the model of how to, before chapter 6, we have Raga Dvesha management. right? So what is raga dvesha management? Well, see, everyone comes innocently with what they're attracted to and what they're repulsed by. But what Bhagavad Gita says is, if you look into your attractions and repulsions, likes and dislikes, you will find that they probably are operating from your pratibhasika. You're probably adding more value to objects than they really deserve. In other words, for example, you look at a gold watch. You know, gold watches go on for how many dollars, or used to? 20,000? 1 million? Why would you pay $1 million for a watch? Amazing, right? Rolex. Because my value for that watch is so high, it's blown up the intrinsic value of the gold. What's the intrinsic value of gold? It's yellow, it's malleable, and it's rare. That's a fact. But then the person comes up and says, no, it's much more than that. You understand? Gold watch means, power, means fame, means success. Therefore, the overblown like and dislike is causing me to live misaligned with reality. That's why we can kill another individual for $20. I've read stories like this. You probably have too, in some countries. He got killed for $100 or $20. That's how much value the fella had on a banknote, that he was willing to take someone else's life for $100. That's called a overblown raga, overblown like for something where everything else in contrast doesn't even stand a chance. Therefore, that person is not living with the reality. Now you times this by hundreds of likes and dislikes in our life, and you can imagine the kind of pressures it produces in a human being, unbeknownst, in the unconscious, and how those pressures affect our decisions every day that we don't even understand because of these likes and dislikes that remain unanalyzed in our unconscious. And therefore, the Gita brings them out and says, wait, you have to look at them. Otherwise, they dictate how your life is. And then in chapter 13, we have 20 values, of course. This is another wonderful model of carrying yourself in this world. Chapter 14, we have guna management, but we also have a very important practice, and that is chapter 3, karma yoga. Karma yoga is bringing in the laws of Ishvara. And there is something called samanya dharma. Samanya dharma means universal ethical values, which are universally true in the past, present, and in the future. That means they will be true for those people 1 million years from now as they are true now. For example, basic is ahimsa, right? I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be cheated. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be cheated. This is always true, even amongst the animal pride. That's why you can have lion pride protecting themselves. When another pride comes by, we want to protect our pride. So this is a primary law. So samanya dharma, everyone has an obligation, if they want a successful life, to comply with. Not to comply, but to align oneself with, so that you have a smooth ride. Right? Because if you are in that flow of the universal values, people will recognize you as a kind person, empathetic, compassionate. You like to care for people. You are considerate. Are these? Just look at these qualities. They're all what we call samanya dharma. These are all wonderful qualities. They're qualities that make friends, they give you people, that people want to show their love for you. Why? Because you're aligned with samanya dharma. However, despite samanya dharma, which is universal for all beings, we have individuals, and therefore we have swadharma. Swadharma means your own personal duties. Okay, so not only am I in, amidst these universal ethical values, but also every person has a circle of influence which is highly complex. That's why the whole Kauravas and Pandavas situation was such a long thing to work out, because it was not so simple as don't do this, don't do that. You have to kind of look at your own duty. Do I, as Yudhishthir, do I play the game? Do I play dice, or do I say no? And then Yudhishthir couldn't say no, because it's when you're asked to play dice, as a king, you're obligated to say yes. I am obligated to say yes. That is, you could say samanya dharma. But in his particular situation, because he knew that, right, potentially some cheating could have happened by Shakuni, he knew that, but he didn't account that. Not that he knew that, but when the game started, he still went on with the game despite seeing Shakuni playing. And he knew Shakuni could have easily beaten him. Hey, wait a minute, I was going to play with Duryodhana. Why is Shakuni playing? No, I'm just going to play because that's my duty. That's my samanya dharma. He had swadharma. He had a personal call to say no. That means he had a chance to violate samanya dharma, which would have not been actually violation, would it? It wouldn't be a violation. It would actually be keeping with samanya dharma. Therefore, swadharma means your own personal duty. How do I act in this complex situation? And this, I tell you, is hard to answer because everyone has a personal situation. So I can't speak for you, you can't speak for me. We have to find a way. Therefore, I align my likes and dislikes, which we just talked about, with swadharma, keeping with samanya dharma. This is karma yoga. That means I move in this world by recognizing the laws of Ishvara, keeping myself aligned with the laws of Ishvara while doing my personal duty, minimizing the damage and the hurt that it has on myself and on you. And that requires thoughtfulness because it's not black or white anymore. Especially in today's complex world, it cannot be just you should or you shouldn't. One needs to be thoughtful. And therefore, this thoughtfulness is karma yoga. Now, the second part of karma yoga is even after I followed my swadharma and my samanya dharma, then the results come back to you. Now, those results are not always keeping with what you expected. Therefore, I have to understand this is what's called Ishvara Prasada. This is coming from the infallible order, which is unbiased and impersonal. So it's not trying to punish me for delivering me results which are totally opposite to what I expected. It's just that the world is so complex that it's not possible to receive exactly what you want. Therefore, I have to understand that. And that understanding, I understand it's coming from Ishvara. If you just go, oh, it's okay. If you don't include Ishvara, it's not karma yoga. The moment you include, this is coming not just from random world, this is coming from the infallible laws of Ishvara, only then it becomes a spiritual practice that ends up purifying your mind on a daily basis because you're looking everything as a manifestation of God. And therefore, this gets your mind away from personal likes and dislikes and keeping those likes and dislikes with the very order which you need to survive and prosper in this world. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.